Do you ever find yourself checking out your Instagram story view count at the end of the day and feeling just a little bit disappointed? Because even after 16 hours, your story still doesn't have that many views? Trust me, you are not alone. We have all been there. We all know Instagram stories are an important part of a solid content strategy on Instagram, but I think a lot of creators can struggle with how to approach stories in a way that's actually gonna be engaging and help you to generate more exposure and reach for your story content. Especially because it's only live for 24 hours, you really wanna make sure that the effort that you put into it is worthwhile and that you make the most of that 24 hours and ensure that as many people as possible can see your content. In this video, I am going to be sharing with you the strategies that I have used to get over 4,000 views on some of my Instagram stories. And for context, I have just about 20,000 followers. So for me, getting 4,000 views is about 20% of my audience. Now, according to this article from Marketing Charts, you can typically expect on an Instagram account with 10,000 to 100,000 followers to get around 5% of your audience viewing your stories. And even for a smaller account, which tend to get more engagement, you would normally expect to have about 9% or 10% of your audience viewing your story. So getting 20% of your audience to see your story content is, if I might say so, pretty impressive. And so I want to share with you the strategies that I use to actually do that so that you can start seeing more views on your Instagram story content. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie. This week we are in a different location, as you can tell. My partner Dan and I decided to do a little bit of a mini staycation, so we just booked a local Airbnb for change of scenery. After about a year of two people living 24/7 in 500 square feet in like one open loft apartment, it's really nice to have just a change of pace and be in a different space, even though we're still just staying home here. I don't know about you, but I personally can't wait until someday when it's safe, when we can travel again and actually go out to different parts of the world and stay in Airbnbs there. But for now, we can at least spend our time focusing on how to improve our Instagram story strategy, right? By the way, you may have also noticed that this is a little bit of a different upload day than what I normally do. So this video has gone up on a Tuesday. Normally I post on Fridays, but I'm excited to let you know that going forward, I'm gonna be posting on Tuesdays and Fridays. Like I mentioned in my video last week, which you can check out up here if you haven't seen it already, I want to start sharing more fun and variety content for all of you. So make sure that you're subscribed because we're starting that out with my apartment tour coming out on Friday. So if you've ever seen the different locations around my place and been curious about how they all piece together, then make sure you stay tuned because I'm sharing the full tour on Friday. So hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Make sure you tap that notification bell so that you really don't miss my videos. And also, while you're down there, why don't you give this video a big thumbs up because it seriously does help me in the algorithm. And also makes my little YouTuber heart happy. Okay, you're subscribed, notified, hit that like button. Let's get into it. In the beginning, I asked you if you have ever experienced that disappointment of seeing much lower views on your Instagram story than you would like. And when I said that you're not alone, I really meant it because just a few months back, I was feeling really discouraged about the number of views I was getting on my Instagram stories because I had seen higher view counts in the past, and even though my followers were still kind of growing, my Instagram story view count wasn't really. So I knew that I wanted to start a new approach to see if I could fix that. I remember it got to the point where even though I was used to getting like 1,000 to 2,000 views on my stories back then, it was like 600 or 500 views on some of my stories, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, why are they decreasing so much? So I decided to pull back and start something new, go in with a different approach, and I found that that approach has been really effective. So without further ado, let's get into the 4 strategies that I have tried that have helped me increase my Instagram story views that you should be able to implement basically today. So let's dive in. The first one is not posting every single day. Now I know this might seem counterintuitive because so often the advice around getting better engagement and views on your Instagram stories is to post really consistently and post really often. And that's what I was doing for the longest time back in like October to December of last year. And for a while it was effective for me, but I found slowly over time a slight decrease and eventually quite a big decrease actually in the number of views I was getting on my stories. But then I ended up actually taking like a weekend or like 4 days off of posting on Instagram stories. And then when I came back, I saw a huge surge in views. Like I'm talking back then, I was used to getting like 600 views on a story. And then I posted my comeback Instagram story, and within 2 hours, I had like 2,000 views. That like blew my mind and opened me up to this whole new approach of maybe not being super frequent with your stories. Since then, I've been able to experiment with it a bit, and I've gone back and forth between posting daily, posting every other day, trying to see what works the best. And what I've actually found the best approach to be is actually waiting a full 24 hours for all of your current stories to expire or disappear or whatever before you start posting again. So that probably works out to more like an every other day approach, but I found I don't even necessarily post that often on my stories. So even if you pick like 2 or 3 days a week to post really consistently to your stories on those days, I think that you'll see an increase in story views. What this also comes back to as well is my theory about content on stories in general, which is posting because you have something to share and not just because you feel like you should be posting. That's been a huge switch in approach for me, because when you're trying to post every day, you're obviously posting for the sake of posting. You're trying to find things that you could share about that would be valuable in order to keep up that consistency. And all power to you. If you can actually share valuable stuff every single day, then that's amazing. Go for it. I think that it can be great to be that frequent as long as the content you're making is like worthy of that frequency. But for me, I just found I didn't have enough different stuff. I mean, we've all been living the same day over and over again for the past 10 months. So I didn't really have enough content to be able to share something new and exciting and engaging every single day. So now I've been trying to take the approach of filming a story when I feel like I have something really interesting or useful or exciting to share, and otherwise just taking a break on it for the day. And I found that that's actually increased my views. The second tactic I've been using is trying to use more written content and less video. Again, maybe counterintuitive, because for a lot of us, we feel like we have to get on stories and speak to the camera. And don't get me wrong, that is definitely very effective at building a relationship with your audience. If you really want to make people feel like they know who you are on a personal level, then filming yourself is totally essential. However, I've found that using a little bit more written content instead of only relying on the videos of you talking can be a little bit better for engagement, at least with my audience. Now, this is my theory behind this. I feel like a lot of us tap through stories and we often see, strings of people talking to their camera for maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, which works out to be like 4 to 8 different Instagram story clips. And that can start to feel a little bit long in the context of Instagram stories. And I don't know about you, but for myself, like if I see somebody who's filming a story and there's no captions, immediately I've skipped past it. There's no way I'm actually gonna sit and listen for 15 seconds to figure out what they're saying, unless it's like somebody that I really, really like. Like if like Sam Hewen was talking to his camera on Instagram stories, because certain celebrities just barely ever show up on Instagram. Anyway, the point is, when I come across a 15-second video on Instagram and somebody has captioned it, I'll normally read the caption and it'll take me less time than 15 seconds, and then I'll tap through. And so if you just circumvent this whole process of like reading and skipping and reading and skipping, and instead of filming yourself talking, take a selfie, take an aesthetic photo of your environment, and then type out what you would have otherwise said, I sometimes think that can be more effective. Here's the thing. I think that ultimately Instagram is really trying to figure out how to keep people on their platform for longer. So if your videos of you talking result in more people skipping forward or skipping out of your content than in people actually watching it to completion, Instagram is not gonna show your story to more people at the front of their story feeds. But if your content instead gets people to pause, maybe actually tap and hold to read what you've written, that is indicating to the Instagram algorithm a much higher level of engagement and also more time spent on the app, which means they're more likely to show that content then to more of your audience. We're gonna get into this more later, but actually looking back at my content from the past month or so, the top 9 stories, only 1 of them was a video clip. The other 8 were photos with text on top of them. So, number 3, Speaking into the current trends or current conversations happening on social media, you have to remember that the content that you're making, especially when it's timely, like Instagram stories, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are other conversations going on social media and other trends that are top of mind for people. And so it can be actually really engaging if you reference those trends, speak into them, share your perspective on them, because people are already thinking about that. And so it's going to end up feeling more relevant to them than something totally evergreen and out of the blue. Evergreen content is really great, especially on the Instagram feed or in Instagram Reels, because it can really provide a lot of value, like carousels, tips and advice, that sort of thing. But on your stories, you have a really great opportunity to speak into things that are like very of the moment. For example, my highest viewed story from the last month is a photo of me trying out a center part and talking about the whole like generational battle between Gen Z and millennials, and center parts versus side parts, mom jeans versus skinny jeans, etc. And turns out this was really engaging for people, because I think a lot of people have a visceral reaction. Like if someone tells you your side part's out of style, then you like feel like personally attacked. I mean, at least I did. And it's something people are already chatting about. So I think that it's just a little bit more engaging than your typical like, oh, here's what I'm up to today. Like if you're talking about stuff that's already front of mind to people, they're going to be faster to engage and actually interact with that content. So try to think about what the current trends are in your niche, what conversations are people having, what might people be interested in hearing your perspective on, and make some stories about that. Number 4, sharing the content that your followers ask for. Something that I found really interesting over my past month and a half of my new approach to Instagram stories is that something that I like to do very often is kind of crowdsource information from my followers. And I'm sure we all do this, you know, you're like, oh, where's a good place to eat in such and such city? Or does anybody know any good beauty gurus to watch for tutorials on doing beachy waves or whatever? People love to crowdsource answers from their followers to the questions they might have. And what I have found is when I do that, often people will reply wanting to get that information too. So not only can you use your followers as a crowdsource of information for yourself, but you can use that as a crowdsource of information and content for the rest of your audience too. And in that way, it really becomes like a community thing where you can share information with each other, and then you are just the facilitator of it. So for example, another one of my really highly engaged stories from the past month was me sharing about how I just got a pair of Doc Marten boots, and I had heard that they were like hard to break in. They can sometimes hurt your feet. So I wanted to know from my followers if anybody had any suggestions for how to break them in, wear them in faster, and make them more comfortable. And I was surprised at the number of people who replied to that request for answers saying, oh, make sure you share the answers, like I would love to know. And so I followed it up by sharing a number of answers that people had sent me, which I think was interesting and valuable to the people who had inquired about it, but it's also a fun way to do crowdsource, community generated content. So it's like one less piece of content you have to make because you're really just facilitating it and bringing it all together and then sharing it to your audience. Also, people like to be shouted out. Like if you mention that a certain follower of yours submitted a certain answer, then they get a little tag or a shout out in your story, and that's a great way to get more engagement as well and show appreciation to your audience for engaging with you. So try to think about ways that you can sort of crowdsource content from your community and provide interesting and valuable information that is community generated and then share it back to your followers. I thought it would be interesting if we would take a look at my stories from the past 30 days. Unfortunately, Insights on Instagram only will show you data for your past 30 days of stories. Well, for your other content, you can see your past like 90 days. But we're gonna take a look at it anyway, see if we can pick out some trends and other insights that we might gain from why I've been able to get so many views. Just in case you're new to it, the way that you can find this information is just by going to your profile. I'm gonna tap on Insights right under Edit Profile there. And then from Insights, we're gonna scroll down and you can see I've posted 27 stories in the past 30 days. I'll click the arrow there. And we're gonna look at reach because that's sort of your like story views, and then we'll go from last 14 days to last 30 days. So as you can see, if we scroll through here, there's actually not like a huge amount of content because like I was saying before, I'm not posting every day anymore. So this is just the collection of stuff that I've posted in the last 30 days. Like I mentioned, this is my most viewed Instagram story, talking about that whole like Gen Z center part thing and trying it out, and I don't think it works for me. What I find really interesting is out of these top 9 posts, these are all photos with quite a bit of text on them. For example, this one where I'm talking about, you know, being anxious and not being on stories as much lately. I was kind of struggling with that earlier in the month. These are both photos with text on them. Again, speaking into that trendy conversation around Gen Z trends. Here's another photo of me talking about, you know, my anxiety and like the struggles that I've had with work and stuff like that, but just like being really vulnerable, and just a photo of my chai and text on top of it. So yeah, I just find it really interesting that these are all photos, because I think a lot of us are really focused on doing videos on stories, which definitely can be very effective, and I think that you should. I think a big part of engagement on Instagram stories too is the variety, so that you don't just fully do photos or fully do videos, like doing a variety of stuff. But I was just surprised at how effective these photos with text were. Here's the only video that hit my top 9. It's just me posing, showing how I do different poses for like a photo shoot, and it's kind of a cute background. So anyway, that was fun. Now let's take a look at the flip side. What are my least engaging stories from the past 30 days? So I have a few here at the bottom that didn't even quite crack 1,000 views. This one is interesting because I'm just basically asking for questions for my live stream. I think part of why this one didn't get as many views is because I posted it only like an hour before I wanted to go live, so it very quickly became irrelevant after posting. Next, I have a series where I'm like promoting my latest video, and I have personally found that anytime you create content for your Instagram stories where you are trying to get people out of the app, like you're trying to tell them, go watch my YouTube video, go check out my blog post, you're gonna get the least amount of engagement, because it's not really like any extra information or anything valuable. It's just straight up like advertising. So sometimes it can be effective to do that, and I did want to give that video the best chance it had at getting views out of the gate. But in general, that's why I don't promote my YouTube videos on my Instagram story. I barely promote my podcast episodes on my Instagram story, because I find it doesn't actually increase the views or engagement on that content, and it actually just decreases my story views and story engagement. So something to think about. Finally, you can see I've got a few videos here of me talking to the camera that kind of came in at the lower end of views. And I honestly think that's because people see like a huge long string of talking videos and they just skip through them. As soon as they read the caption, they're gonna skip past, and I don't blame them. That's what I do too. So that's why I think sometimes doing the photo approach can be kind of effective. Now, I do want to say, so that nobody feels discouraged about your own metrics, I still really feel like 1,000 views on an Instagram story for an audience of my size is more than adequate. Like I was mentioning earlier, normally you can expect to have about a 5% view rate on your Instagram stories with an audience of my size, and 1,000 views is right around that 5%. So I feel like that is still totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want you to get too caught up in the numbers and be checking every day and feeling like, oh, I must have been boring today because my views are low. That's not a good cycle to get into, and trust me, I have been there. I've noticed actually lately that when you go to look at your Instagram stories, the view count doesn't show up right away. You actually have to tap on that little eye icon to see it, and that's actually been kind of good for me, because I used to compulsively like look through my Instagram stories to see how many views they had. I still do that, but now it takes me a couple extra taps. So try not to get too wrapped up in the numbers, and always remember they definitely do not define your worth. You are doing awesome, and it's always good to try to optimize our reach and our growth when we're building a business, but just remember that it doesn't define you, and it's all okay. If you found this video helpful, please again, give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It helps me out in the algorithm. Plus, I've got a couple extra videos that you should definitely watch next. That actually helps me the most. If you just go watch these videos that I've made about Instagram growth, how you can increase your followers, trends you should be following this year, watching those next is one of the best things you can do to help me keep growing this YouTube channel. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, because I will see you on Friday, and I hope that you are having adventures and following your dreams. That's right, we're going back to my old sign off, because I think it's really cute and very true, and I do hope that you're having adventures and following your dreams. Okay, I'll see you on Friday. Bye.